Hey everybody, we're going to start something new here at Aubie Smith Farms. We're going to start a series that goes through all the different cut options that we sell from our beef grown right here on the farm. You might even see a few over here behind me. So this series is going to take us through the cut list, and we're going to try and incorporate other things that we grow on the farm to try and show you, really how local you can eat. So today's meal is going to be a fun fall one. So we're going to have our Dino Ribs. There's some big juicy ribs. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. They're quick to cook, but it's like a juicy brisket. Best cut in the beef world. We're gonna have some corn ribs. We're gonna cut these up, a little fry on them, a little grill. They're gonna be great. And the last thing, we're gonna have some grilled honey pumpkin. Take the pumpkin, cut it up a little bit. Gonna drizzle a little honey on it, again, from right here on the farm, Aubie Company. And then that's fall for you. Fall on a plate, everything grown right here on the farm. So one thing with a big cut of meat like this Dino rib is it's got a lot of fat on it. So there's a couple different things to do. If you're trimming a brisket, you're really looking for the aerodynamics because it's going to be a really long cook. You're talking, 16 to 18 hours to get a nice bark and then make it soft all the way through. So with the ribs, since they're not on the grill as long, it may not render all this fat, especially some of this harder fat. So we're going to try and take this down. We don't want to take it all the way because it's definitely going to be a lot more moist if we can keep some fat on it. But we're going to try and make it as uniform as we can across the top before we start putting on our seasonings. Another thing with ribs is with pork ribs, you want to take this membrane off the back. With beef ribs, you want to leave that in there. Otherwise, by the time we get it up to a little over 200 degrees, all the fat and juices would just run right out the bottom. So we want to leave that on there. That's going to hold it in, and then you can eat it at the end or you can peel it off pretty easy, but we don't want to mess that up in the beginning. So to trim it up, a lot of times this right here you can take it off by hand, but we're going to use a knife today. Another thing we're looking for is to try and take the fat down so that way whatever fat up here will run off, so our bark can form a knife. You want to take off anything that's dangling or hanging off the ends. Those will just get cooked quicker and be harder. So for our binder today, we're going to use a little bit of yellow mustard. Doesn't take much. That's enough to do the whole thing. So put it on. You're just looking for something that seasoning is going to adhere to. Today we're going to use a couple different seasonings. So traditional Texas barbecue, salt, pepper, and garlic. Not in Texas, we're in Tennessee. But we're going to do a little variation of that. So we're going to do salt and pepper, using 50-50 blend from Lane Seasonings. And then we're going to use some of the Meat Church Holy Cow. It's got a little bit of garlic, a little bit of the other seasonings in it that we're a little more used to in Tennessee barbecue. As we get ready to put this on the smoker, in it is what's called the slow and sear. So it's got this little container that has the water, and that's more of a thermal mass to keep the heat more focused to one side. And it keeps all of the coals on that one side to make more or less an offset smoker. So traditional barbecue, you think of, it's got the wood down at one end, the meat at the other, and the heat goes across it. Well, using this Weber kettle, we're trying to make this something that most backyard barbecue foodies can do. It creates that same effect. So what we're going to do is first we're going to insert this meter probe, so that way we can keep an eye on what the temperature is both in the meat as well as in the grill. So we can track that, be able to show you the statistics at the end of what the cook actually looked like, because this isn't going to cook on here just like this the whole time. When it hits about 160, we're going to wrap it in some butcher paper and stick it back on to finish her out. So when you put this on the grill, you want to put the biggest side towards that heat. Just helps everything cook evenly. And then I said we're going to take all these extra seasonings. We're going to try and sprinkle that back across the top, because again, as that fat starts to render, it's going to rinse it down into the grill. So we're going to try and keep it about 275 to 300. This should take about 4.5 to 5 hours. Again, that's the benefit of it not being a brisket, but you're getting the same brisket taste. So we're going to take that, close her up, and we'll come back in a little while and see how she's doing. One big thing to note whenever you're using a kettle like this is to create that offset taste, you need to spin it where the smoke outlet is above your meat. So it's going to heat the wood, it's going to bring it across the meat and out the top, creating again that offset smoker. But then it's a 2-in-1. You can cook burgers during the week, steaks, pork chops, then you can smoke meat. You get one of the larger ones, you can do a full packer brisket on this thing and it comes out wonderful. It's been an hour. Let's see how they're looking. See, I've added a couple things. We've got our pumpkin seeds, and we've got that fat that I trimmed off earlier. I'm turning it into tallow. I'll put it inside the butcher paper once we're ready to wrap it up. You can see it's actually starting to shrink. So there's pullback from the ribs off the bone on this end. So by the time we're done, this top fat will be somewhere over here in the middle. Check out that smoke rolling out of there. You want most of your smoke to come in the first third to 2/3 of the cook. After that, once we wrap it, there's really nothing that's going to get taken in. All right, now we're gonna get everything cleaned up, transition over to cutting up our corn ribs and then our pumpkin. So the corn and pumpkin are things that you could do in your kitchen. You could do them in an air fryer, you could do them on the stove, but we're out here in cow pasture, so we're gonna do them on cast iron skillet and then in the grill for the pumpkin. But get cleaned up, we'll come back and we'll get to that. So next up on the menu is corn ribs, and it's just peaches and cream, in our case, sweet corn, that we're gonna cut into quarters and then we're gonna fry them up. So for this, you wanna use something that's pretty sturdy as far as the knife goes. I don't know if you ever cut raw corn, but it's pretty hard. And you don't want something blade breaking, twisting, or sliding out, hitting your hand. So you'd think it'd be easy to cut this way. It's a lot easier if you go from the top. So you're gonna try and again, just use the whole length of the knife as you go down. Don't try and just force it through. And you're gonna lose a few kernels along the way. It's no big deal. So, got it in half. I guess you can do it like that, but we're gonna cut them into quarters. So same thing. Once they start getting down to this size, the ear itself gets kind of flimsy. So again, just be careful with your hands. So next up on the menu is corn ribs. We're gonna get some oil added to our cast iron skillet so we can get them on the fryer. Not really deep frying them, but you need enough to cover them up. So we'll let that heat up real quick. So corn's got a lot of water in it, so that's gonna increase the amount of bubbling. Again, sweet corn doesn't really need to be cooked. So all we're trying to do is warm it up and put a little bit of color on it. And you can see it doesn't take long. We're talking 20, 30 seconds per piece. So it's been about 3 hours. We'll check them and see how done they are. Remember, we're looking for that internal temperature around 165, 170, so we can wrap it. And it's probing right at 170. And it's getting pretty soft. We're gonna wrap it though, and it's gonna finish out and be a lot softer by the time we're done with it. So we're gonna wrap it in this peach butcher pepper. And then we're gonna pour that tallow on it from earlier that we rendered up. This is that fat from earlier. Again, we just rendered it down, and we're gonna pour that over top of this, that when we wrap it up, it's all contained inside. So the biggest thing we want to do is make sure is when we are done is that the top is still on top. So easiest way is just keep track of your flips. So the top's still the top. It's a little hard out here in the wind. Top down, top over. The front facing up is actually the bottom. Flip that up, stick it on there for about another hour or so. Stick it off to one side so that way we can get the rest of the stuff grilled up. Put a little more water in our trough here. Get that top on, let her keep going. Next thing on the menu is pumpkins. So what we've got here today is a blue dog pumpkin. So this pumpkin is one of the 53 varieties that we've grown this year, but it is the most dense as far as the meat to the hole in the middle ratio. So reason a lot of people like this one is because they don't have to have a huge pumpkin to get a lot of stuff to eat. So we're gonna cut this open, get the seeds out, there's not very many, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do next. Big amount of meat compared to the size of the opening here. And we're gonna leave the skin on it today. That's actually what's gonna hold it together. So when we're done cooking it, it doesn't just turn into mash. Coming up for our last part of the cook, we've gotta get these pieces of the pumpkin that we cut up and put a little bit of oil on them. We're gonna put them on the grill. After they've been on the grill and softened up for a little while, we will pull them off, put a little bit of the Meat Church honey hog on them to give them a little bit of sweetness. And then lastly, we're gonna drizzle them with some Ottawa Bee Company honey. These hives are right here on the farm, and these bees actually help pollinate this pumpkin. So with that, let's get them going. And put just a little bit of oil on them, that just help them puff up a little bit and get it even tastier. These aren't all going to fit on here at the same time, so have a couple batches. A lot of that oil will actually drip off as well as burn off, and it'll give us a little more char on them, which is what we're going for. All right, they've been on about 10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and flip them over, see what we got. We should have a pretty good bit of char, especially on these ones up in the front. Oh yeah, look at that. Looks kind of like a squash, which pumpkin is in the squash family, so it's gonna taste very similar to some of those summer treats that you like. Some of these ones in the back, they're starting to heat up. They're gonna take a little longer, so we'll leave them down. Check the temp of our ribs, which I can feel they're definitely more tender than they were a minute ago. So we're about 185. We're looking for that 203, 202 magic number. We'll get there. Slow and steady. and it's just like butter going through there. So we're gonna go ahead and take it off, let it rest. It's going to continue to cook for a minute. Looks like the herd showed up just in time for dinner. I'll get them some pumpkin so they can eat on. Still got a little bit left from this morning. Cut them up a few pieces of it. I do love some pumpkin. They'll eat on that while we take care of this. So let it rest. Been resting for about 30 minutes. So again, some people like to rest it overnight. It just really depends on what kind of time you're looking at, but we're hungry. So make sure you're somewhere where you can afford a little bit of runoff. I'm gonna leave these paper towels over here to catch some of it. She sure is hot still. Take some of this, put back in the trash. So here we are on the ribs. So we've got the 4 bones. Again, it was all covered, but as it heated up and the fat started to render out, it shrunk down. So here's our meter probe from earlier. It's got sucked up in the middle. Flip it over, you can see that membrane, it's mostly intact. Peeled back a little bit here on the edge, but that was just where it was cut. But the rest of it's still good. It just, again, shrunk with the meat. Got our fat cap meat. So we're gonna take our brisket knife. Again, you don't have to have this. You just don't really want to use a serrated edge. And we're gonna try and cut it. So beef ribs, they're not like pork ribs. You're usually not just picking it up and eating it, but if you really wanted to, you could. Turn around and look at it. So you can see with a beef rib, it's kind of like the brisket. You got your meat and then your fat mixed in the middle. So you're welcome to eat all of it, or you can pick it out. So one of my favorite things to do is actually cut it up, mix it into some mac and cheese. But if you want to eat it just like a rib, it's great for that. So here we have it. Grilled pumpkin, a little bit of that honey hog from Meat Church on it. Got those big, massive prehistoric dino ribs, again, grown from these cows. As you can see, they showed up for dinner. And then our corn ribs. A little bit of fry on them, a little bit of the holy cow, and finished with, again, a little bit of that honey hog on top. So beef ribs, nothing to do with them. Corn ribs, I put a little more honey hog on it. Last thing to do is finish up these grilled pumpkin with just a little drizzle of honey. Again, this honey was from right here on the farm. You can check it out up in the shack. All of these are available at different times throughout the year. Currently, we've got the meat and pumpkins. Summertime, we have the sweet corn. Pulled these out of the freezer for this show. And the honey, again, is available year round. So thank you for watching. This has been Will on the grill here at Aubie Smith Farms. And again, we're gonna work our way through that cut sheet and let you try all of our different cuts that come from cows, born, raised, and finished right here on the farm. Again, come back and see us. Thank you.